Hi, welcome to Landscape of Mothers. I'm Jill Clifton. Continuing our conversation about teens, one of the things that's come up, in conversations lately is the stories we tell. And so this is an invitation to parents and caregivers of teens to think a little bit about what your story is that you tell about your teen. Who are they? So I hear a lot of stories about, teens are difficult, teens are, cantankerous or stubborn or emotional or whatever. So certainly, relationships with teens can take a lot of our energy. So I'm not saying that those things are not true. But what I am kind of getting at is sort of a bigger, so there's two places that the story happens. One is at the cultural level, and we do have stories about teens are difficult, they're defiant, they're whatever, and we have all these like negative things we say about teens. We very rarely say anything positive about them. And then there's the story that we're telling inside of our household, and that also it tends to mirror our cultural story unless we're very thoughtful about it. And so I'm inviting you to just be thoughtful about what is the story you're telling about the teen that you're in a relationship with. So, are you talking about how creative or inventive they are, or how they bring something to your life that you didn't have before because they have a different set of values or a different way of going about things, or that their thought processes are like just amazing when they share them with you, that you're totally curious and interested and whatever, because I have a lot of those things with my teens. And I think that the more that I told those stories about what teens were like, the easier it was for me to engage with my teens as if that was the primary story. And second, I think it made them feel a lot more valuable, right? That there were positive things that they were hearing spoken about them, even when they were only sort of in earshot. So one of the things I've learned about teens is that even though they have those earbuds in all the time, they are amazing at hearing the things you don't want them to hear. And so when you are kind of like on the phone with somebody and you're telling the story of who your teen is, again, kind of two things. One is talk as if they were in the room. It's really easy to complain. And the more we tell stories about how great it is to work with a teen or to be in a relationship with a teen, or the interesting things that happen, even if they're difficult because they're different and you're like, whoa, I never would have thought of it like that. The more that we can tell stories that support the teens being full, whole human beings, the better off we're all going to be. So just be careful of the stories that you're telling. Today's invitation is to inquire about them. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that this is kind of mountain mother territory. So to start injecting some actual landscape of mothers and some of the things I've been talking about. Stories hold us. They tell us something about who we are, what we're worth, how we are valuable to our communities. And stories kind of fall in this mountain mother territory. And so we're kind of asking ourselves, if we're really taking steps towards presence, if we're wanting to be in healthy relationship with our teens so that they feel like they can come to us, that they feel like they can share things with us, we've been moving toward a sense of presence, right? We've got space between us and them and their emotions, and but we don't abandon them. So we're taking this presence ground rather than like, okay, do it yourself, or like, I'm going to take this over from you. And in order to do that, one of the grounding places that we have there is the stories that we tell. So what stories do we tell about ourselves? Do we talk about ourselves as constantly exasperated parents? Do we talk as if like we just have a house full of like unruly children? And while sometimes it might actually be like that, if that's the story we're telling about what the people in our family are like all the time, often what we're doing is setting a framework where that's what they expect you to think. That's what they expect out of themselves. And so that's what they start to just feel is the norm. As frustrating or unhelpful as it might be, it will be accepted because it's the family story, right? And if you can think back in your family about what are some of the stories we told about who we are as a family and how accurate were those, and then depending on their accuracy, did those hurt or help? Who did they benefit, right? And often it throws certain people under the bus to make other people look better. And we, if we're in this place where we're wanting to have better relationships with our kids, we cannot be sacrificing anyone in the family in order to make someone else look better, or to tell a funny story, or to connect with somebody else who's telling that story. And that's the hardest place, is when that cultural story comes around through someone else's mouth and they're talking about their kids like this. It's really hard not to jump in and not to kind of make a joke out of it. But we want to be really mindful about whose humanity we're undermining when we're telling those stories. So this is Mountain Mother territory in the sense that that we want to tell stories that are the kind of framework that we want to have. And then those stories support us in actually having conversations and in living out what it is that we want. And is this perfect? Is this going to be the thing that's going to make everything, easy again? It probably isn't. But it is, I do think it's important to be aware of how we're using our words inside of our relationships and how we're kind of setting that framework. The way this is helpful to think of it as Mountain Mother territory is that there's a lot of slowing down here. So Mountain Mother is the one who takes a stand for things, right? So she's the one taking the stand for the culture of your family. And we're doing that through being aware of how we're talking about people in our family. Mountain Mother is a place of stability and security. So finding the stories that build and create a foundation for safety and security even within yourself. So this includes the stories you're telling about yourself. That may be the hardest part of Mountain Mother. But so remember that whatever's happening includes you. So your family, you are one of your family members. This includes you. So this is about taking a stand for strong stories about the family, not to ignore or excise the problems that happen, but to build that strong, secure foundation where, this is the realm of apology, and that we are able to take responsibility for our actions and our words. And so Mountain Mother can be really great for holding this inquiry around what are the stories of the family? How do we act out these stories? What is true and whole? And then being slow enough and deliberate enough about all of those things. Mountain really holds us in that energy of care and of setting a good foundation for relationship. So I hope that's helpful in any ways that you can continue to brainstorm about what does mountain mean to you? What kind of energy is a mountain for you? And it might lead you to more things that are more specific to your family and the things that your particular beloveds are going through at any given moment. So I encourage, kind of a free write or reflections about what is mountain, where do I see those things in my life, and what do I want to make out of them? What do I want to create a foundation for myself and my family out of? All right. Do your best work, beloveds, and if you need more help, there are some exercises in the book at the end of the Mountain Mother chapter that could also be helpful. And if you don't have the book yet, shameless plug, Landscape of Mothers. You can get it at Amazon or bookshop.org.